So I want to make sure sometimes we get to the end of these and I forget about questions. So if you think of something, if you're like me and you think of something and you think you might forget, pop those into the chat and we will make sure that we get to questions at the end. I know that we had a question from Anne who can't be here tonight about e-spinners, and that's something I don't know much about. So maybe toward the end, if you have any
answered her
thoughts.
question.
Okay. Well, and I would love to have it here live for anybody else who, is curious about that. So if we have time at the end, maybe we'll chat about that.
Sure. Just reconnect my audio. It's not.
You have such a great space back there.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that. Not first, but I want to talk about that because.
Oh, come on. Here we go.
Looks good.
There. Grab my chair.
All right.
Move the table over. Shove the bags of fluff out of the way.
So I have a question for you because I know that, we've been all going live for a while, but I know that's really nerve-wracking for some folks. But you are very natural in front of, you are great with the audience, and what makes that easy for you, Lizette?
A career in television news where I had to think on my feet as the cameraman was dropping his trousers to try and crack me up during a serious story. Oh, you have no idea the pranks that go on in a television news studio. It's not all robotic cameras.
That's crazy. So where was this?
I started as an intern in Sacramento, and I was such a pest. This was when I was in college. I walked in on January 1st, 1980, and said, I want to be an intern. And they're like, great, our interns are hungover and no one showed up today. So I was instantly dubbed an intern. I was such a pest to the reporters, asking them, questions all the time. And, oh, can I go out on this story with you? I wasn't the type of intern that just sat in the newsroom and answered the phone. No. I wanted to know all the details, all the ins and outs. And I've always said that job, being a reporter, is perfect for anybody who is a tattletale, because you're the first to know something, then you get to tell somebody else all about it. So I was like paid to be a tattletale. It was great. And they said, there's a job in Eureka, California, which is about 5 miles north on the coast from Sacramento. We're inland about 70 miles from San Francisco. And so they said, go in the studio, here's a script, and just read the stuff that'll be on the teleprompter on the camera. And this was after the 11 o'clock news. And so they kept the people around to help me out. And I did 2 takes. The first take, I just stared at the camera and they're like, that was great. Now this time, blink every now and then. And if you have to say a number or someone's name, look down at your script and then look back up at the camera before you say it. It adds credibility and lets people know that you actually know what you're talking about, which is just such a hoot, because no, we don't know anything we're talking about. Usually we've just been handed something, or we haven't even been handed something. We're being told something in our earpiece, and usually by a frantic producer who's screaming obscenities, and how those don't come across. Right. With a $10,000 fine if you say something bad. It's pretty bad. But it's a lot of fun. It was a super fun career. Unfortunately, I aged out of it. I finished up in Sacramento. I went to Reno. From Eureka, I went to Santa Rosa, helped put a TV station on the air. It was like, let's put on a show, an old Mickey Rooney movie with Judy Garland. And we literally were building the sets out of plywood and indoor-outdoor carpeting and, fake contact paper that looked like wood. Yeah, you wouldn't believe how ticky-tacky all the sets are really in real life. It's all smoke and mirrors and good lighting. good lighting is everything. I've always said that. Speaking of good lighting, I have my lights set for really bright for the fiber, and I don't want, there we go. I want the sun, the one that makes me look suntan. It's not good for fiber. It doesn't show off the fiber as well, but I look better. So since I'm not showing you fiber today, I'll go for that one. Also drop this down just a bit.
Well, what an exciting career.
Yeah. And so I've told a couple people who I see the camera is really low and we're getting a nasal cavity view. Get your camera up, whatever your device is, elevate it with some boxes. You don't have to spend a lot to get a better look. You need a decent ring light, sometimes 2 of them. If you're using Windows, put a bed sheet over the window, or Pellon. You can get that at any fabric store in the interfacing department. You want to diffuse that light that's coming in so that you don't have these hot spots. So I'm not seeing hot spots today. I'm looking at my monitor over here. So my monitor is my parents' old TV set. My brother and I and my sister went together and upgraded their TV several years ago. And my sister got this TV. Then she moved in with her girlfriend and didn't need it. And she messaged me and said, hey, do you want mom and dad's old TV? And I'm like, yes, because when we're on a Zoom, I can see big pictures of everybody. I'm not, squinting. I'm not creating more of this angry one that forms between your eyebrows. As I said to my husband, get me a bigger phone or start paying for Botox injections. The bigger phone upgrade is much less money because these are continual. But yeah, and just that kind of thing. I use a lot of humor when I'm on. I just try to be myself. I'm not using a script. I considered buying a little teleprompter that goes over the iPad, and my husband's like, yeah, there's several of them on sale on Facebook Marketplace, and they're good prices. I just think it would hinder your naturalness. Yeah. And I think he's right. If I had to write out everything, yes, I would actually get to cover all the stuff I'm trying to sell, because I never seem to get through it all because I'm so busy just chattering away. Yeah. And I think I do have some undiagnosed ADD issues, which apparently are worse after menopause, which I'm well after. But yeah, I left TV news when I turned 40. That was 27 years ago. And I was told we're going for a younger look. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'm going to go enjoy dessert and just do things I'm passionate about. And I signed up for a knitting class just to have something to do in the evenings. And I noticed this was at Davis Adult Ed. We were living in Davis, California at the time. And I looked at their brochure in the office when I was signing up and paying for the class. And I noticed they don't have a sewing class. And I had a sewing business out of my home in between TV careers and other stuff. And so I asked them about that. And, we don't have a teacher. And I was like, I could teach that with one hand behind my back. Next thing I know, there's a contract in front of me and $2,000 in budget money to go buy sewing machines and tables. And so my husband and I built tables and upholstered them so that the machines wouldn't vibrate and be noisy. It really helped to soften the noise. And I was off and running. I had a captive audience in this class of, I think I had 10 students every 10 weeks with a 2-week break because they were on the quarter system. And I partnered with a sewing machine store that I used to work with when I had my sewing business in the next town and said, give me decent quality machines. This is my budget. And it was actually 12 students because they gave me 12 machines. And they gave them to me at their cost because I said, I want it to have an automatic needle threader because I can no longer thread a needle. And it hit me when I went to teach the class. I'm like, I can't see the needle hole. And and so they're like, oh, and I said, and give me a machine that has an easy way to put a zipper in, because those are the 2 things: buttonholes, zippers. I want an automatic buttonholer. And I said, I don't want the school level machine. They're clunkety. They break down. They're cheaply made. I said, I'm dealing with students who are of an age that they have an income that they're paying for my class, and they're probably going to come in here after a week or two and buy a new machine from you. Because I'm going to show them how the modern machines make everything easy. And that was so true. I had rocket scientists and astrophysicists from UC Davis, from the university, in my class. And I was at first really intimidated, thinking, oh, I only have a bachelor's in communication. I have a bachelor's in chatterbox is what I have, a bachelor's in. Yeah, I could just chat with anybody about anything. These people are like, they're changing the world. But the thing is, they didn't know how to sew on a button.
Right.
Threading a needle scared the bejesus out of them. And that immediately like calmed me down. And I'm like, oh, I know more than they do when it comes to this subject matter. This is great. I get to, and at first I'm like, seriously? Who doesn't know how to sew on a button? And a friend of mine said, a lot of people. A lot of people, you know, didn't have a mom who sewed their clothes when they were little, matching outfits, you know, and sort of implanted that complete curiosity for design. And I think I was taking my mom's Vogue patterns when we were stationed in Taiwan and trying to downsize them for my midge, you know, the freckled redheaded Barbie doll of the time. But yeah, I wanted to make things. And I was, even in the 5th grade, I was a bit of an Anglophile. And I think I read that Queen Elizabeth never wore the same thing twice. And I announced that to my parents, that I needed to learn to sew because Queen Elizabeth never wore the same thing twice. And my legal name is Elizabeth. And they're like, oh, honey, we don't own the crown jewels.
Right.
That shouldn't stop us. So they upped my allowance and I found fabric stores, and yeah, they were my haunt. I love fabric stores. That's where I kind of hung out. And so when I left TV news, I got into knitting. I ended up teaching a sewing class. I had been doing ballroom dance for a long time and teaching that on the side. And I just started teaching ballroom dance with my husband. So at Davis Adult Ed, I taught knitting, crochet, sewing, ballroom dance, and an upholstery class. And I think I tried 1/4 of quilting, and I just thought, oh my gosh, tiny little shapes, sewing them together to make a big shape, when it was started out as a big shape, that you had a big piece of fabric you chopped up. And I'm like, this takes too much time, and I don't want to spend that amount of time and that much artistry on something that's going on my bed. If I'm going to sew something, I want it to be worn, so that everybody can admire it. You know, I never want to walk into a room wearing the same thing someone else has on. You know, they might wear it better. Chances are they will wear it better. So I've always liked making my own things, having my own style, as wacky and crazy as it is. As you can see from behind me, the wackiness.
So how did fiber come into all that?
I was knitting while going to stories. Usually the cameraman was driving the vehicle and I'd be sitting there knitting because I couldn't stand how he was driving, and I had to distract myself as I was, you know, planning my will in my head. But I said, you know, I got into knitting, and I've always said that is the gateway drug to, you know, to all of this behind me, into the spinning world. So I crocheted first, knitted when I had the mumps. My mom taught me to knit. I knit a 12-foot long scarf by the time I was all better, and announced that this would look lovely with a maxi coat I was asking Santa for. You know? And everyone's like, and you were how old? I think I was like 13. And you were still talking about Santa. I'm like, I would never give up a good thing. A guy who brings presents? Yeah. I'm going to keep believing. Yeah. Don't stop believing. And so then I got into the whole fiber thing. And I was doing both ballroom dance, teaching at a community college, ballroom dance classes on a Friday night, 180 students average on a Friday night in my class. It's a party. for 3 hours, and the housing market tanked in 2008, 2009, and in 2009 May, it was announced they were cutting all my classes, and I was like, oh, this hurts. I've been teaching there since 2001, and I was devastated. I missed my students. I missed my captive audience. You know, it was that same. You're on. You got people that you're showing something to. You see the light bulb go off in their head when they get it, and then you see them out enjoying the sport of dance. And the same thing with knitting. I would teach knitting classes or spinning classes or crochet, all of this stuff. And you just see how excited people get. And it's your enthusiasm is contagious, is what I say.
For sure.
You know, I know you see that with the little looms. Yeah. Yep. And I want the little ornament that you did.
Oh, I've got one.
Oh, so cute. Oh my gosh. And then the pandemic hit, and dance is a contact sport.
Right.
Football is a collision sport, but dance is a contact sport. You're in frame here. And so it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go crazy if the end of humanity is coming, you know. I mean, I really need to figure out something to do. All of the fiber shows that I did were shutting down. And I'm not even sure. I think I was just kind of cruising around Facebook, and I saw this thing about wool and fiber arts. And I tried to sign up, but I wasn't too sure what I was doing. I didn't have an iPad. I had a Samsung phone. I had never gone live on Facebook. I didn't know what I was doing. And then my husband was having severe herniated disc pain and can't take any pain meds. So I was dealing with that. And a friend passed away Mother's Day weekend of 2020. So now I'm spending 3 weeks driving to Richmond, 100 miles round trip, to deal with her estate. So her brother didn't have to come out from Cape Cod because he's in his late 70s. And so I was like, holy cow, you know, trying to do all this stuff. And I think I set the application. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do it. And that was for, I think, the April or the May. And then it wasn't until August or September, whatever the raw fiber was of 2020, that was my first show. And you helped me. I think you helped me. Cynthia from the Turned Spindles was my volunteer, but I didn't understand I needed to stay in contact with her. And all of a sudden my time was coming up, and I'm like, I don't know how to start this. And I was using a notebook, my Apple laptop. Yeah, my MacBook. Yeah, 13-inch. And I had it on, you know, a table on boxes on my back patio. And I'm like, I'm just going to turn on the waterfall. It'll distract from the fact that I don't know what that is.
See, I remember the garden well. I love your garden.
See, distract them with the upslope,
right?
The terraced vineyard, all of that. They won't realize, oh, she's an idiot. She doesn't know what she's doing on this whole Facebook Live thing. But yeah, it was fun. Once I got through it, and I had my friend here, I was selling my buddy fiber. I was helping her sell her fleeces. And she doesn't like to be on camera. She's a lawyer who just wants to be a shepherdess. She's like, oh, if I could just give up the law practice and the benefits. Yeah, I just stay at home with my farm and my 30 head of merino. So my whole thing was, okay, I felt like I needed to sort of distinguish myself from all the other talented vendors on WAFA. And so I'm like, I have locally sourced fiber. I'm sure everybody has that, but I just said it out loud. That was the only difference. And I felt so lucky to be part of this. And I think I watched Mandy. I can't think of her name, something.
Oh, who has the Pagoras?
Yeah, Love Farm, something like that.
Yep, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. And she looked like she was so much fun. I was
Sadowski.
Like Sadowski, yes. I watched her lives and I'm like, oh, I want to be her friend. And I think I messaged her.
Me too.
"You're fantastic. Oh my gosh, you're hysterically funny." She would show her after her room, and it was just
Yep.
complete chaos and upheaval. And I'm like, that's exactly how the inside of my brain feels right now. So yeah, and I'm sure she thought, "Oh, who is this weirdo contacting me?" But yeah, I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. And I don't think I've missed a single Wafa sale. And I just feel so fortunate to be, I felt like I found my tribe of other creative fiber people. And if I don't know something, I can like reach out and ask a question. And all this knowledge is like coming at me.
And not feel stupid or like you
No,
shouldn't have asked or yeah.
no,
Yeah.
exactly. There are no stupid questions. You know, you're hurting yourself if you don't ask a question.
Right.
Is kind of what it is. Yeah.
So you were doing fiber shows before?
I was.
Okay.
I had done Black Sheep in Oregon, Black Sheep Gathering, which is like the biggest fiber show on the West Coast. And then Oregon Flock and Fiber. So one was in June, one was in September, and then it got bumped to October because of the pandemic, and they lost their space in Canby, Oregon, and had to move to Albany, which is the same place that Black Sheep has theirs. And it was fine because it was actually a better location. It didn't have that intimate little small town fiber festival field, but it had big air conditioned buildings.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And you didn't have stairs. You had to negotiate to set up your booth. You just roll up that big garage door and roll your stuff in and set it up. So I think it's better. They are moving it back to September, which is difficult. But I've actually decided I don't think I'm going to be doing those live festivals as a vendor. I'm very open to teaching.
Yeah.
I taught for my guild recently, and I got a standing ovation for the presentation and then the workshop in the afternoon. And I was like, ooh, this felt really good. It's like, let's put
it's hard to do both though.
It is. I actually helped out a teacher who had a student who didn't have the springy thing for the Scotch tension for her wheel, and she didn't have the spring. And I said, oh, I think I have a rubber band, because I remember throwing one into something that I was taking for display. It was on the floor and I just threw it in, one of these tiny little rubber bands. Mm-hmm. And so I went to the classroom with her and hooked it up, and the teacher said, oh, and what's your name? And I said, oh, Lizette. She goes, oh, you're Lizette from SpinGlitz. She knew me from Wafa. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, oh my gosh, everybody has to go to her booth. And it was really kind of nice.
Nice.
Yeah. And I was talking to her later because she also had a booth. And I said, how did that work for you? She said, awful. I couldn't set up until 5 o'clock. And they were, the day of the setup, they wanted everybody out of the building by 5:30. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, ouch. So that makes it tough.
Yeah, we do the same thing at Estes, where we do vendor preview on Friday night. So classes finish at 4, and then the vendor show opens at 5, or whenever they wander over there. So I'm lucky to have a helper, but if I didn't, I would be in a world of hurt.
Exactly.
To do both. But, I get it. They want to take advantage of students being there Friday and want them to come to our booths. So, but yeah, it's tricky.
It is. And, if you're paying for the booth fee, if it's not, complimentary because you're teaching, then you're worrying about, am I going to sell enough? Yep. I spent $500 just on gasoline, and it had gone down by October. And that's what I'm saying. I'm kind of sorry they moved it back to September, because the gas prices in September are still high.
Yeah.
They don't start dropping until people are no longer going on vacation.
Yeah. So, I hear that a lot. And it's at the beginning, I remember saying to myself, it's good exposure. It's good to meet people, but at some point
it's expensive.
It has to pay for itself. Yeah,
it does. It always has to pay for itself.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, I can't do it. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
Plus, it's hard on our bodies. It's a 12-hour drive for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm a camel. I can drive straight through. My husband, no. Every 2 hours, we're pulling off for a bathroom break,
Right.
Or get another iced tea. I go, you realize you're just renting that iced tea that you're drinking.
Right.
If you would stop drinking the iced tea, we wouldn't have to pull off every 2 hours, and we could just get there in 8.5 hours.
And then you have to schlep everything in and set it up. And
yes.
I've decided that I don't want to do outdoor shows anymore. I don't want to hold my tent down in the rain and the wind.
No.
I just, I know that's picky, but I don't want to sit for 12 hours in the sun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, you have the right attitude. I did one outdoor show, and that was the first Oregon Flock and Fiber off, because you have to be outdoors. When it was in Canby, you had to be outdoors. You couldn't come indoors until they had an opening. Yeah. And after that, where I was across from the horse arena, it was misty and wet when we arrived. So now everything is getting moisture on it. The canopy is not holding the water. We have the zipper wrap around, and my spinning wheel manufacturer, Mike Pauley, who makes the Spinolution spinning wheels that I rep. I was his first dealer. I said, I want to come up and do this show. And he's in Winlock, Washington. And he says, oh, I'll come down and I'll build you a floor. And I'm like, you're going to build me a floor? So I was the only vendor outdoors that had a ballroom floor.
There you go.
And before we put any product in there, you literally could dance on this wood floor. And he took it in pieces and attached it underneath his ginormous motorhome. It was like the Rolls Royce of motorhomes or something. And I was just shocked that, he was able to do this. And then he brought the wraparound. He actually brought the pop-up and the wraparound for it. But I still had my black drapes, and they have a white fabric on the back. And the horse arena, when it wasn't drizzly and rainy, the wind was blowing. And I was sneezing my head off from the dust and dirt that was blowing from that horse arena getting all over the drapes, getting on everything. And I just went to the vendor chair. She's like, how'd you do? And I'm like, I cannot come back. My allergies are driving me crazy. Of course, it is the grass seed capital of the world up there. And so that was part of that. But I said, the wind, the dust from the horse arena, I can't come up again. And she's like, we'll get you in the building next year. And yeah, she did. She got me in the building. I was right next to the kitchen where they had the competition, the cooking competition, which is like, hey, I'm all over that. I could just step out of my booth and get in line for the samples. And that's where I learned to like lamb. I never liked lamb before I had it there. They age their meat a week before they wrap it up. Yeah. And that was the difference. It took the gaminess out of it. So it was just a fun experience. There's a part of me that still wants to do it, but my body is telling me, you're too old to be doing this. It takes me a week to recover. Every joint is hurting. And I love dancing. I love going out and supporting live music. I'm out dancing at least 5 nights a week with my husband, supporting live music in our area. And I'd rather do that. And I can't do that if I'm sore and cranky.
Yeah. I'm grateful every month that all I have to do is like clear it out so it looks good. And then it's just...
this is my window, right?
Yep. Nobody gets to see the rest.
I had a friend come over, and she came up into this room, and she goes, oh, it looks so much bigger on your live sale. I'm like, yeah, smoke and mirrors. That's what it is. Right. But I'll tell you, WAFA has been a blessing. I don't think I would have pushed my fiber business to this level if it had. I wasn't doing bats before. I was like cranking out a bat or two at a live show, but I was so busy showing the wheels, and I had all my fluff not carded, just fluff. And it's changed a lot, and I'm so grateful. And I'm so grateful to the community, the customers, the friends I've made, that I feel like I can't do enough. And I'm sure they're all getting tired of cheering me because I'm on Monday nights now. And I always try and join in the spin along, even though I have another like local group that meets at a yard shop on Thursday nights that I'm supposed to be participating in with my guild. But I'm like, oh, I have a Zoom meeting. Sorry. I'll be on WAFA. And I've shared WAFA with all my guilds. I belong to 7 guilds. Probably the reason I can't seem to get my house clean because I'm never here. So yeah, I have gone and talked everybody's ear off, and I publish a newsletter for the Sacramento Weavers and Spinners Guild, and under events, the second event is always Wool and Fiber Arts this month. Nice. Yep, I put the date in and the theme and the link.
Right.
Be sure and join. You're missing all the fun. It's all month long.
So yeah. You are a dealer for
Spinolution.
A few things. Yep.
The Spinolution wheels, Brother Drum Carters, and I'm thankful to Jennifer Marker because I became a dealer. You have to buy 2 things to be a dealer, and I wanted the big 17-inch extra wide, extra.
Are you talking about Brother?
The one you have, the one I sold, the one I ordered for you. And Jennifer got the large version of that.
Okay.
And because she was getting the large version, I said, let me order it for you because I'm a dealer for them. if I can order it for you when I order mine. And so, yeah, I ordered hers and mine and became a dealer for them. And I was selling, because they're right up there by Albany, Oregon, they would just bring all the inventory over for me. And that was great. And they paid for the booth. Nice. So, yeah, I'm like, thank you. They're Russian Orthodox, and so they're busy with their church activities on the weekend. And I said, have you ever done any shows? Oh, we can't do shows. We have church on the weekend. And I'm like, but I could do the show. You just bring the stuff to me and then pick it up at the end of the show. That's the only drawback. They're not through and can't get to the fairgrounds until 8 p.m. We have to be out of the building at 6. So they bring their trailer and truck and we load it up. And then we sit there with the keys until they can come and pick it up. And it's the exchange of the keys. Yeah. And that's been a nice work relationship. I find them very honorable people. And so, yeah, I'm happy with how that's worked out. I also noticed that a vendor for Wool and Fiber Arts, Jessica Holtpack, from Forever Growing, was making a wonderful little e-spinner, wooden box, nice motor, 3D printed flyer and bobbin ends. And I messaged her and said, have you ever considered making an art yarn version of this? Because at the time she was selling that for $350. And I said, if you can make an art yarn version of your wheel and keep the price point close to what you're charging for your standard spinner, there's a market for you. Because I sell the Spinolution Firefly, which is that ginormous bobbin.
Right.
Yeah. I sell that for, I think, $1,200 starting. And not that size. That size was much more expensive, that 64-ounce head. But there's a market. There's a market for an art yarn spinner in that price range. And she's like, I hadn't thought about that. And I'm like, well, here's some pictures. This is what an art yarn spinner likes. I want an open hook or a delta orifice. She does the big, they call it the big U. Mm-hmm. And I said, I don't want to be encumbered by anything I want to put in my yarn. If I want to put Scrabble tiles that I've drilled a hole in, into my yarn, or chunky earring from the 50s, that I only have one of. Stuff you can find at the thrift store in a bag for, a couple dollars. I always look at everything. I look at junk and I'm like, how can I make that into yarn? How can I use that in my art yarn? And so she's like, okay, we're going to work on this. And I'm like, okay. And if you can create something, I'm happy to be a dealer for you out here on the West Coast at the shows I do. And so, yeah, she and Tim came up with this, and we were chatting back and forth, and she's like, we can't find a motor. We just can't find a motor that's strong enough because it's a bigger head. It doesn't have like an end holding it up at the front.
Right.
And I said, well, look for something called a step motor. I'm sure you have to go to China to get it. But that's pretty much what everybody's using. It's called a step motor, and it's really powerful and quiet. It was so quiet, she actually changed the motor in her original one, in her original spinner, and uses this more quiet motor. And then they've continued to upgrade. When I came home from Black Sheep last June, my husband started having a heart issue. He had AFib. We didn't get the car unloaded fast enough, and it was like 110 degrees here. And we had just this crazy heat wave. And the Spinny Cube art yarn and the Spinny Cube regular Spinny Cube are in my car, and they absolutely were melting. I looked at them and I'm like, this looks like a Salvador Dali painting. And it was like probably 400 degrees in the car. And I was devastated. I'm like, oh no, this is like so much money. And so I called her and I'm like, okay, I'm sending you pictures. This is what happens when you leave it in the car and it's 110 outside. And she just said, she sent back like LOL, laughing faces. She goes, don't worry about it. We were doing some upgrades. I was going to be sending you new parts anyway. I said, the box is fine. The wooden box and the motor are fine. It's just anything that was the PLA plastic.
Yeah.
That from the 3D printing. And she's like, it's not a problem. Don't worry. She was so gracious about it. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness. So yeah, we're just having some issues with shipping. The shippers are just manhandling these packages, and they are packing everything so well. But if it gets punched from the side and there's a hole in the box, yeah, things get damaged. What I love is she's figured out a way to make this eco packing system where you have a lazy Kate is the frame.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yes. You get a lazy Kate with your e-spinner.
Right, because it frames
Europe,
it, right?
Yeah, Europe doesn't want peanuts. They don't want packing peanuts. And so European standards for shipping caused her to create a different way of packing her Spinny Cubes. And thank goodness, because we're all benefiting. The planet is benefiting here from no peanuts in there, and everything's being stable. So yeah, it's been a really nice relationship. And she keeps telling me, oh my gosh, you've sold more than anybody else and you're keeping us alive here. And I'm like,
nice.
I had no idea. I thought he was just talking it up because I really like them. Nice. And in speaking with other people who manufacture e-spinners, Nathan Lee of Woolly Winder, he and I are good friends, and we were at a show, at the same show up in Oregon because he lives up there. And I said, what do you think of this Spinny Cube? He goes, wow. And I said, you know, it's got a low price. He goes, that's great. People will buy this. They'll get hooked on it. As they get hooked on the craft, they will eventually upgrade to a more expensive, you know, a Hanson or a Spinolution or whatever. But when you are just dipping your toe into this, you don't want to fork out, you know, $1,200 plus for an electric spinner when you might not like this at all. You might not like this craft. So
so let's come back. And so Anne's question was, she's spun some both on, it sounds like, a wheel and a spindle, and she didn't find it relaxing. And so her question was about, you know, would an e-spinner be a good alternative? So what's your what do your feelings
the pros
about that?
The pros are they're portable. You know, I listed these things. They're portable. You can get them in different price points. You don't have to spend a ton to get into it. My first question that I didn't ask her back, and I wish I had, is, did you try to teach yourself to spin, or did you take a class? Because I find that the people who struggle, and they usually end up becoming my students, they try to teach themselves. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I don't say I'm cheap. I'm cautious with the dollar.
Well, independent.
So I have a shoe addiction. And so, yeah, I don't want to spend a lot of money on, stuff. And so I'm always trying to save money. But yeah, and I tried to teach myself and it wasn't going well. And I would start with saying, don't try to spin, just sit and treadle. This is
Right.
the first thing I have people do is take this wheel before you even come over here for the class. Just try treadling and making that big wheel go in one direction.
Yep.
And watch a TV show while you're doing this. Not something really intense like Law and Order.
Right.
A comedy is best.
Because all of a sudden
your favorite movie. Exactly. Yeah. And you want to get a rhythm that is sort of like your heartbeat. Ba-ba, ba-ba, ba-ba. It's the same thing with dance. It's muscle memory. And I can't seem to get this across enough that don't be so hard on yourself. You're doing just fine. It's just muscle memory. And we have to get your feet to sort of do this treadle thing slowly, consistently, with a rhythm,
Right.
and put on music. We had Stephanie Gaustat came and taught a comprehensive spinning workshop in my home for my guild, from the Hangtown Fibers Guild up in Placerville, where gold was discovered. And they she said, I know you teach dance, can you put on a waltz for us? And I'm like, American Smooth, like Engelbert Humperdinck, or Patty Page, or Tennessee Waltz, or Viennese. And she said, oh, they are different rhythms. I go, yes, the Viennese waltz is the polka of waltzes. It's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and the American Smooth is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So we did both, and we timed like 2 minutes and saw how much we spun, how many yards we spun in 2 minutes. And we did that by putting a little colored, roving to break up our length so we would know. And then we put on the Viennese waltz, and it was amazing how much more yardage we spun with the faster music. So yeah, I think Marcia Ball is a favorite, like kind of Texas swing bluesy rockabilly.
Yeah.
That tempo, that upbeat rock around the clock. You want to go back to the 50s, But yeah, try some of these, try spinning to different speeds of music, and see what happens. But the first thing people have to do is just get control of their feet. I have a dear friend who's like this. She's like the Energizer Bunny. And I'm like, Rita, slow down.
Well, and I think letting go of that expectation that it will be consistent and thin.
Exactly. If you want consistent and thin, go to the yarn shop and buy some commercially spun yarn. This is hand spun. It's organic. It has
personality
to it. And exactly, your personality is coming through. And some of the best art yarn is the first yarn you ever spin.
I say that to people and they're like, this? I'm like, that.
That's the expensive stuff in the yarn shop.
Right. Because 2 years from now, it's going to be hard for you.
Yes.
To let go and
spin control. Yes, you've learned to control, and now you're going to have to let go of fiber to get that, thick and thin, spirally look.
Right. So we've got a few minutes left. I want to make sure that people know where to find you.
I am SpinGlitz, SpinGlitz, capital G and capital S.
Yep.
All one word.
And
it's on all socials.
Okay. Facebook, Instagram,
TikTok. I would love it if people would go hit the follow on my TikTok. I need to get 1,000 followers so I can go live. Yeah.
I wish there weren't that wall.
I think I have 67.
Awesome.
And I keep trying to put little videos on there, and I'm like,
website?
www.spinglitz.com.
All right.
And if you want to reach out to me, I'm Lizette at SpinGlitz, Lizzette.
All right. Are you doing in-person shows this year that you know about?
I don't know of any. So I have no plans.
Okay.
So I'm still probably going to reach out. I don't know. It's kind of up in the air. It's up in the air if I'm going to go back to Oregon. Only
Oh,
if
okay.
it's a great opportunity to teach.
Yeah.
I'm going to probably hunker down here and produce some finished goods because I never seem to have those, and
Yep.
I just missed the whole craft fair, holiday craft fair opportunities because I didn't have anything ready.
Yep.
And yeah, that we have the Crocker Art Gallery in Sacramento. The Crocker family was right out of the gold mining days, and they had a 3-day juried show, and it was quite interesting. A friend of mine did it with wheat weaving. They'd never had a wheat weaver before, and she did quite
Wow.
well. Yeah, she has arthritic hands, and I'm like, this is the wrong thing for you to be doing. I don't know how you're managing this with, all of the arthritis in her hands, but she's weaving wheat. I'd much rather bake sourdough bread with my
Right?
wheat.
Yeah, any day. All right, Annie has a question. I'm going to read it to you.
Sure. Yeah.
What do people with art yarn with bells and Scrabble tiles and beads and huge things do with that? I just watched a bunch of Ashford videos and I don't get it. Do you knit? What's it for? Is it
Yes.
is it coarse spun then Navajo plied? Now it's thicker than my thumbs together.
Well, you can Navajo ply it. I don't do that. I do even super coiled, which is coiled yarn that is then coiled onto itself. And that's really fun. And yes, it's thick. So you can use this any way you use any yarn, with the exception of making underwear with it. You probably would not want to have all that texture under your clothing. But I look at it this way. Art has a piece of art, a painting, will have a very neutral mat around it so that the art shows up. The art yarn is the same thing. Use it as a cuff, a collar, a placket up the front of a sweater, a pocket, a headband, crocheted headbands. A girl with a hook does those out of her art yarn. They look incredible. Yes, a pocket, of course, Sandy. Yeah. Don't think I can't use this. Think of, I'm going to try this, in any form that you want to. Crocheted, knitted, woven. It's incredible. Right. Just a few picks woven in to anything. Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be the whole project.
No, it doesn't have to be the whole project. Yeah. I don't think you'd want that. I don't think you want a coat of art yarn.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe, although I've seen Caitlin has done like the triangular shawl with art yarn, but I think there's also some not art yarn in there. There's just some, I think it's nice to mix the commercial with the art yarn, or just the skinnier hand spun with the art yarn if you're doing a triangular shawl. Yep. It just, you get that texture. It just looks gallery to me. And that's what I look for. When I'm creating something, I want it to look like it's in the designer only section of Nordstrom, or in a gallery in Carmel.
One of a kind. Yep.
Yeah, one of a kind. Nobody else wants to see that. Remember, Queen Elizabeth never wore the same outfit twice. Right? You don't have to wear the same outfit twice either. Yeah. Create something wonderful that people are going to see when you're wearing it, and they're going to go, oh my gosh, where did you get that? And you can say, I created this.
Yep. Yeah. Makes me think of, I've got a big tapestry loom, where you can make that big shed.
Yes.
And art yarn makes a big statement. Sometimes, even with a pocket, it needs to be a big piece so that
yes,
can
even
kind of
the
have
yoke,
that stage.
The yoke on the back of something, I see there's a hood done in the art yarn.
Yep.
I think it would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah. A bag, either a hobo bag or even a clutch, let's bring back the clutch. That's an easy thing to do on the little loom.
Yeah. Yep. All right. She says this is helping.
I'm a bag lady. Yes. You could
Yep.
do great bags with it. Absolutely. Now, is that the same Annie that had the question about the electric? I don't think so.
Nope,
Was
that's
it
Anne. That's
Anne? Okay.
Anne Merson. So that's somebody different. So. All
So
right.
I'm seeing 6 in the chat, 6 questions. Have they all been answered?
I think those are all from Annie, but we could certainly, if you've got time, Lizette, we can certainly
Sure.
open up, and if anybody wants to unmute, we've probably got another maybe 15 minutes or so.
Absolutely. Unmute. Annie, I'm in Northern California, just east of Sacramento, off US 50, which is the highway that goes to Tahoe, Lake Tahoe, for great skiing. And I'm in El Dorado Hills. So my county, El Dorado County, is where gold was discovered. So I'm not too far from Marshall Gold. In fact, last weekend, we had the Christmas in Coloma, which is where the actual gold was discovered. And it's all period costumes, and our guild goes there with, dressed from like the gold rush days, and then sets up our spinning wheels, and we're spinning and talking to people about yarn. And some people get very into their character. I have one friend who has all black, and she's like, I'm a widow. My husband, like, she takes on a character. I'm like, awesome. And I'm like, I went there with toothpicks, and I'm like, I was with the Donner Party, and I'm like cleaning my teeth. No one thought that was funny. I thought it was hysterical. Apparently, it's still too soon to joke about.
Right.
And we do have Donner Lake and Donner Pass, which is, as you drive up to Tahoe, you pass those. Actually, I think those are off 80, now that I'm thinking about it. Interstate 80. I don't know. I'm not the person driving. I mean, my husband drive, and that way I can knit or crochet or spin. Okay, another one just came across. I'm either getting texted or, let me see here.
Anything else here?
Yes, release the perfectionist in you. That was the toughest thing for me. My first art yarn class was with Lexi Boger, who wrote, her first book was Handspun Revolution. And she lives near me. Her family owns a winery, Boger Winery. And I took a workshop from her. My cat is decided to come in here. Come here, you want to get in the picture? I took a workshop from her years ago, and right after her book came out, and she was showing us how to just create this crazy yarn. And my friend Joni and I were having trouble because we're like skinny yarn people. And we're looking at each other like, I don't know how to do this. And I can just say that lunch was included. And after a bottle of the Reserve Red, our yarn got way better. We apparently let go of the fiber.
Nice.
We let go of the fiber. Oh, this one is like clawing my back. He wants me to pick him up. This is Truffle. He is my chocolate Himalayan ragdoll. I think there's Maine Coon because he's 17 pounds. And he has never missed a Zoom. He has never missed a Zoom. And when I'm going live, I think I said on my last live, I don't have an elf on the shelf. I have a cat in a cubby. Can you see the eyeballs staring back at you? Because he had been in one of the cubbies earlier. He likes to get in there. He pulls the wool out with his paw, and then he gets in there and hides. And I'm like, why is there a ball of wool on the floor? This was not down here before.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah.
Yarn for me. All right.
My favorite carder. I like Brother Drum Carders, and they bought the license for Patrick Green to produce those when Patrick Green passed away, and his wife Paula Simmons also passed. They had acquired the license to manufacture those drum carders, and they they are the tops. And I have a Patrick Green super card that I had bought used years ago, and you can still find them. I think they're 4,000 for a new one from Brother. They're using all the same parts. And then I bought the Brother extra wide because I take my solids and bat the solid colors. And then they don't make a 12-inch wide. Ashford does, but I'm trying to support, you know, the economy in this country as much as I can. But they didn't have a 12-inch wide manual drum carder. And when I'm doing art bats, I like the control of the manual. My shoulder doesn't like it.
Yep.
But I like to be able to slow down when I'm turning, because I'm adding in silk threads, pieces of silk scarf, shreds of silk scarf, that kind of thing. Noil, things that are going to catch. And I don't want to break the teeth. If I have a motor on it while I'm adding those in, good chance I'm going to break the teeth on the drums. And so I found the Ashford has a 12-inch, but it was a 6-month wait, and I had become an Ashford dealer so I could get that drum carder. And then it was a 6-month wait, and I went online and I just Googled 12-inch wide manual drum carder, and there was an Etsy store that had one, and it was not an Ashford. It was out of the Ukraine, and the person who was making them said he had one right then. And I said, can you, if I send you the money, are you able to safely get it to the airport for shipping? Because, you know, the invasion is happening right now. It was happening. It was the day of the invasion, Russia's invasion into Ukraine. And he said, oh, this is going to help my family immensely. And yes, I can make sure it gets there. And so I sent the money and I held my breath. And in like 2.5 weeks, it was here. And packed beautifully. The wood finishing isn't quite the same as Brother. This is plywood, and my only critique of this Ukrainian manufacturer is that he could up this by putting polyurethane on every piece, because there's just a little places that are a little rough, and you know, I could mask it off and go spray the urethane on it myself. It doesn't bother me that much to do that, but it's been great. And I asked him, can you make me different drums for it so I could just swap out the drums if I wanted to, because you know, it might look like I have a lot of space here. I don't. This is a 13.5 by 13.5 room, and there's piles of bags of fiber and walls of yarn. And so there's not a lot of space in here.
So you were looking for a 12-inch? Does the Brother have a 12-inch?
They do not.
What?
They do not. 8. Yeah.
Is that what my new one is?
No, your new one is the width. It's the width of it is what I'm talking about, not the circumference. The width of your big one is 16 or 17.
No, but I have a crank now, remember? Because
yes. Oh, no, that's the baby. Didn't you get the baby?
No, it's a regular.
Okay, the standard.
Yeah, so how big is the standard, the Brother?
I believe that's 8.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Just measure across.
Got it.
You know where you doffer it off? Just put your ruler in there and see.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you were looking for something wider that held a little more?
I wanted the because it would hold more. Yes.
Got it.
So I can only barely get 2 ounces on the Patrick Green Super Carder.
What about the Ukrainian one? What can you get on that?
I just got 6 ounces and I still had room.
Okay. Awesome.
Still had room.
That's great.
Because I was doing the
yeah, they don't make crank starters that big, do they?
No, they don't. I was trying to create some bats for this 12 days of spinning that I put together, and it's a 1/2 ounce in each box, but it's off of one colorway, one bat.
Oh, so yeah.
I was creating the bat and I wanted it to be consistent. So I was trying to get 6 ounces onto here, and it's an art bat. So I'm adding in all the fun, crazy stuff and then splitting it up. And I was able to get 6 ounces on there, no problem. I still had room. So if you look across the plane of the teeth and you can still see bare teeth, yeah, exactly. If your fiber only goes to here and you can put more fiber, it should go all the way up. It's fiber chicken, just like yarn chicken on the bobbin.
Okay, so Annie's asking about what TPI is good for those art bats.
72 is good. I have a Louette. I had 2 Louettes. I had my original Louette hand crank that didn't hold enough. That's why I just sold it. It was a 72, and I also had the 54, and the 54 has longer teeth on the Louette Classic. And so I kept that because when I go to shows or I go to teach, I don't really want to take, this is a 9, I think I have 96 on this Russian one here. Or not Russian one, Ukrainian one. And so I want to have, something that I don't mind students handling. And so I have that 54. It does beautiful bats. I take it when I demo for my guild. We have an open house. I don't take this one. I take, excuse me, that little one. And my great wheel, and I'm demoing. So should we talk wheels and how many wheels we have?
Well, let's do that.
31. at last count. Yeah, at last count. And I try not to like go and gather them all because he will see them and he'll say, I think you have a problem. And I will just retort with, I teach. And he's like, when did you have a class last year? Yeah. Well, I taught for my guild. And I took wheels for people who didn't have wheels that would work with art yarn. I took them, something they could use. Because if you have a tiny orifice on your wheel, it's hard to put funky stuff in there.
Yep. Every wheel is different.
It is. Yeah. And I'm trying to figure out a way, like an aftermarket thing that you could just put on the outside of your standard wheel that has a tiny orifice that just has like a big hook on it. Then you can run your fiber around that hook and then around the hook of the flyer arms to get it on there. But even the flyer arms have tiny hooks, Yeah. I'll tell you, the thing I tell people that I love about the Spinolution wheels, and I think everybody can do this with their own wheels, and that is the bobbins have a little place to hook. Now I can't find one. Here. 8-ounce bobbin. Or as I say, street taco size. Regular taco size. This is what I love about, you see that paper clip?
Yes.
So because there's a paper clip there, it's cut and then jammed in with super glue. And the fact that our wheels have a hook orifice system, it's just a bar with a big giant cup hook on it. I don't have to have leader. I can start spinning off that hook to make my very first single. And then I take it off that hook and I put it onto this, I slip it underneath this paper clip and I start spinning. So I never have leader on here. I find leader, if it's not the same weight of what you're spinning, it interferes with your ability to fill that evenly.
Yeah.
So I was doing a show and Mike, the maker of Spinolution, was there because he was bringing a lot of inventory for me. So I didn't have to own it all and haul it all from California. And I said, oh, I forgot my leader. I don't have any crummy yarn around here to use. And he's like, what are you talking about? You don't need leader. Spin off the hook. And as soon as he said it, the words came out of his mouth. It was like, oh my gosh, how have I not realized this? It's a perfect thing to demo. So whenever I go to demo a wheel, I take an empty bobbin so I can actually demo spinning off the hook for my first strand, unattaching it from the hook because it's kind of twisted on there, and then sticking it under that paper clip and just winding it onto the bobbin. And everybody's mouth drops open.
Genius.
They're like, oh my gosh. I go, it is, but everybody can do this to their bobbins. I haven't found a bobbin yet that you couldn't put a paper clip on. And it doesn't, this of course is the giant paper clip because this is the 32-ounce bobbin, but you could do the smaller paper clip. And it just makes it so simple. I was always frustrated with my slip knot slipping so much that I couldn't get going.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I have to say, that was one of the more genius design things that he did.
For sure.
And I'm the first to tell you, I don't love all of his wheels. I don't own all of his wheels. I own 3. And I'm very honest with people. I love the Monarch. I love the King Bee. It's the 8-ounce. It's the folding wheel, weighs about 13 pounds. And I love the Firefly. It's the electric. And the only thing that 64-ounce flyer can work on is the electric. The Monarch, it's a treadle wheel. It's a big studio wheel. It's a slog to treadle that 64-ounce flyer. It's just too heavy. I was all prepared to love the Worker Bee, which is this size end, but this length. And it's a 16-ounce bobbin and flyer. And I thought, I'll sell my King Bee. I'll buy a couple of 8-ounce bobbins. I can spin onto the 8s, ply onto the 16. I'll have the best of both worlds. And I went to spin on that King Bee, and the backspin was horrific. I would stop treadling, and everything I just put on the bobbin is now flying off as the bobbin stops spinning one way and starts spinning the opposite direction. And I called him and I said, what's with the backspin? And he's like, oh, it's just too powerful. I go, no, that's not an answer. This has to be fixed. I can't sell this to people. The backspin is terrible. So I always have it in my booth, and people sit down and they're like, oh, this is nice. And I'm like, yeah, spin on it. And then they spin on it and they're like, oh, is it me? I go, no, it's not you. Because see, we immediately as women, we go, oh, I must be doing something wrong. No, no, no. Yeah. One time I saw a video, what did that say? It went by so fast.
Wheel instead of between the legs of a lady instead of perpendicular.
Oh, I think she's talking about
Castle as opposed to Saxony.
No, she's talking about, I had one of these wheels.
Instead of the wheel being this way, it's this
right.
way.
Yes, yes. And
Like,
it's
like a car
French,
wheel.
It's a French design.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think Shaq does one like that.
Yeah, somebody else is making them right
not
now.
The ladybug. What's the other one? The turquoise one that goes this way.
Oh,
oh my gosh. Right on the tip of my tongue. But there's also a lateral wheel that you sit not in front of it, but next to it. But the orifice comes out this way, like across you. And the wheel is turning here. And there's a foot pedal that you're pushing here. I used to have one of those. Someone gave it to me. And I ended up passing it on to a kid who wanted to spin because I wasn't really using it. And then I just saw one the other day that someone was selling for, I think, $700. It's an antique. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I wondered on that Shaq wheel, the turquoise one that I'm talking about, that the wheel turns like between your legs. Yeah, it looks like it's
sidekick.
Sidekick. Thank you so much.
I had to look it up.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you could do that from your system there. Yeah, when I first saw that, I'm like, how do you know if you're spinning clockwise or counterclockwise?
Right. Yeah, I have that trouble with the Ashford. I have several traditionals that have found their way to me, and they just want to spin backwards.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I taught, students on them for a long time, and I was like, no, forget it. We're gonna.
I have 2 traditionals. I'll have to go down and try spinning on them and see if that happens. Are you setting them up as double drive, or are you setting up with Scotch tension?
No, it's no, they're set up as Scotch.
Okay.
But students just, I mean, I learned on it, so I didn't know any different. I learned on
Right.
Manhard with Navajo churro, right?
Right.
So
Right.
hard wheel, hard fiber.
Exactly.
Right. But
Nothing
boy,
you want next to your neck.
I can spin anything now, you name it. But you know, students just really struggle with it. So I mean, I need to get them ready and move them on to other people, but I use Lendrums now as my student wheels.
Oh, Lendrums are nice. And I used a Lendrum until I was using a Lendrum in that Camp Plucky Fluff, the art yarn workshop. And I was using the jumbo flyer so that I could, you know, actually get stuff on there and make fat yarn.
Yeah.
But I was still restricted by that little metal ring that is on the flyer arm. And this is what drives me crazy about that. It's that little metal ring on the flyer arm that is dictating what I can spin into my yarn. And I mean,
oh yeah,
it's the holiday season.
Right, because the orifice is big, but
this kind of stuff in my yarn. Jingle bells.
Yeah. I love that.
That's what I mean, I just look at everything, crazy stuff. It's like, what can I put in here?
What's a good big jumbo giant wheel for art yarn?
The Monarch. I actually think the package, the 16-inch flyer works great on the Monarch. It just doesn't work on the Worker Bee. So I sell a lot of the packages that are the 16 and the 32. So you get the shorter version of this and this one. You get 3 bobbins, 2 flyers, the yarn winder, the skein winder that has the 1 yard, 2 yard, it's, you know, crisscrossed, Lazy Kate. And then I tell them buy 3 8-ounce bobbins, because the 8-ounce bobbin fits the 16-ounce flyer. And so now you have 8 ounces, 16 ounces, and 32 ounces without having to buy a whole nother head for the 8-ounce, because it fits the 16-ounce flyer. And everybody that does that is super happy. And it is a studio wheel. It's 22 pounds. It is not light to hoist into a car. And if you're taking it to a guild meeting, and then I tell them buy the Firefly base, because all those heads that fit on the Spinolution Monarch fit on the Firefly base. And so now you have interchangeable heads, and the Firefly base is portable. It has a really good motor. It has a car charger,
nice.
A wall charger. Yeah. And then you never have to own another wheel. I say that where I own 31 wheels. Yeah.
Where do you store all those wheels, Lizette?
It's a 4,100 square foot house.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's 5 in every room.
There's 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms. And I have them hidden everywhere. There's a whole bunch of wheels under these tables that I have my fiber on. There's bins of stuff, and there's also wheels hiding under.
Now you've said it out loud.
That's right. I have a problem. My name's Lizette, and I have a problem. I have too many spinning wheels. I've actually been partying with some of them. I went to a couple shows, local shows, this past summer. Fiber Frolic is a new fiber show. And I took a whole bunch of the antique wheels. I rescue them. See, this is the problem, Teddy. I don't want any wheel that I see in an estate sale or on Facebook Marketplace or in the thrift store to go to the dump.
Yeah.
These are equipment that people can use. They can make a living using this. I feel the same way about looms. It's the reason the 84 Corvette sits out on the driveway with a car cover, and the garage for it is full of looms and yarn winders and mills, you know, for winding warping mills. Yeah, we took the sleigh off the wall to put it out front. And what went up on the wall on the hooks? 4 warping boards.
It's time. All right. So you told us about where to find you social media wise, but you host something on WAFA.
I do the crafting on Mondays,
Okay.
4 o'clock Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time,
All right.
and all the times in between, whatever your time zone is. Yeah, and we have a really nice group of ladies, and you can work on your craft of choice, or you can just join in and be eating your dessert or your dinner. It's 4 o'clock for me, so I haven't had dinner yet. So you'll hear my stomach growling about 5 o'clock. It's supposed to be an hour long. We always go long because I think when we're busy with our craft, we don't get a chance to socialize enough. So this is how we socialize.
Right. Wonderful. Well, this has been wonderful.
Thank you for asking
What
me.
a joy. Oh, I just love getting to know all those little pieces that we wouldn't know, and just, taking the time to chat. It's such a privilege.
Cheryl Bieber from Saskatchewan is always coming to the spin in, and she's wonderful. And she just finished the most exquisite piece of tatting that she's been working on since I first met her on the Zoom. She posted it, so go check out her page. She has exquisite tatting. And Wendy Lou up in Alaska, Wendy Lou Berg. I'm slowly learning where everybody is. Did Evelyn make it on today? No. Evelyn from Texas?
I didn't see her.
Evelyn DeWitt?
No.
Excuse me. I think she was going to try and make it.
All right. So I managed to hit the record button while I set it up so it would record itself. So eventually I'm going to post these.
And you'll put the link in the body of this event so that they can find it. They can go back to this event and find the link.
Yes.
To watch the recording.
I'll make a post because it won't happen tomorrow.
Okay.
All right. Thank y'all so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for asking.
You bet.